Hello beautiful people, welcome to Bree Talks Books. I'm Bree, and you already know I'm here to talk about books, so let's go. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing 3 recent reads that I read while drinking some tea. I came up with the concept for this video because I love tea, and I figured this was an hopefully easier, more concise way to share some of the books that I've recently read, because sometimes I have the tendency to talk about way too many books in the video and then I just go on and on and on because I talk a lot. If any of these sound interesting to you, like they're your cup of tea, you can check them out too. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first book that I have to talk about is actually a book that I just finished a couple days ago. It's one of the books that I'm teaching this year with my 7th graders. It is Restart by Gordon Korman. Though I'm teaching this book, yes, it is a middle grade, like YA book. I recommend this for all ages. Anyone can read this and enjoy it. I really enjoyed it. Just putting that out there. This story follows Chase. At the beginning of the book, he is just waking up in the hospital. He has no recollection of where he is, what happened, or even who he is. He learns that he fell off his roof, had a head injury, and is suffering from amnesia. Doctors don't know how long it's going to last, and he just kind of has to make do. So he's going into 8th grade. Once he's back at school, he's so lost and confused. He recognizes that some of the students seem to be afraid of him. Some of them practically worship him. One girl is even so upset that she dumps her froyo on his head. He doesn't know if he deserved it or not. Who is Chase even? Throughout this coming of age story, he is essentially grasping with that, trying to remember who he is, and then also kind of discovering maybe he doesn't want to be that person anymore. So I really enjoyed this book. It's super short. It's like under 200 pages. I liked that it was multiple perspectives as well, so you got to hear not only from Chase's side, but like other students and classmates and things like that, which made it, I felt like, a more well-rounded story. Overall, I thought it was a really relatable story. I appreciated the themes surrounding identity, acceptance, accountability, and friendship, essentially. Thought it was really good, and you should read it. Alright, so on to the second book that I read, or have to talk about, because I guess I read it before the one I just mentioned, but whatever. That book is The Four Winds by Kristin Hannah. I actually just loaned this book out to a friend, so Darius will insert it somewhere here. The cover. Cool. This is an adult historical fiction novel and probably one of my most anticipated books of the year. Besides all the fantasy books I'm anticipating. Those of you who have seen my videos before, been to the channel, thanks for coming back. And if you're new here, that's cool too. Welcome. Y'all know I read a lot of fantasy books. Outside of the fantasy genre though, I enjoy historical fiction a lot too, and other things. But anyway, rambling again. The Four Winds by Kristin Hannah. I have read 2 of Kristin Hannah's previous books, The Great Alone as well as The Nightingale, both of which I gave 5 stars to and absolutely loved. So that's why I was highly anticipating this one. The Four Winds takes place during the Great Depression / Dust Bowl era, and it's set in Texas, so it's 1930s Texas. We're following a young woman, Elsa, who has always been kind of awkward, bookwormish her entire life. The story begins following Elsa in Texas. She ends up at the very beginning of the book having to marry a person who she may or may not be in love with, but she definitely is pregnant by due to the circumstances of the situation. She moves in with her fiance / new husband and his family, and they are farmers, so she suddenly has to learn the ways of the land. Now, if you're not familiar with that time period, being a farmer was very difficult due to drought and the depression and the dust storms. So definitely less than ideal of a situation. Elsa's kind of always been an outcast her entire life. Her new family is no different. Throughout the story, you just kind of see her grow as well as the family dynamic grow as they do everything they can to survive these difficult times. And then on top of all of that, Elsa is faced with the difficult decision that a lot of people in her situation are also debating of whether or not she should stay in Texas and fight for the land that she loves or move on to California in hopes for a better life. That is basically the premise of the story. It's a pretty long book, it's well over 400 pages, probably close like to 500, but it doesn't feel that long, mostly because the way that the story unfolds, you just really get wrapped up into the characters and everything that's going on. Like, I was rooting for these characters so much. It's just a heart-wrenching story. If you were hoping for a happy ending, like, don't read this book. But if you want a good story, like, this is definitely a great one that I would recommend. Absolutely cried multiple times. I lost count how many times. Had to, like, stop reading to let it all out. But it's really just because of the devastating circumstances of the time, a lot of sad things are happening. But it's historically accurate, and I really like the way that like the plot unfolded because it wasn't predictable. And for someone like me who's like a super history nerd, honestly the premise wasn't as interesting to me. I was really picking this up and anticipating it because of the author, and lo and behold, like, I wasn't disappointed. I was blown away by it. Oh, I feel like that was a poor choice in words, giving the context of the book. It's a very, very good book. I was very impressed with how well like the story was just crafted. This had the potential to be like such a boring book, and it just wasn't for me. I was just really attached to the characters. She drew me in, and I wanted to make sure that like everyone survived. I was hooked. I loved it. I recommend it. The third and final book I'm going to be sharing today is The Final Revival of Opal and Neb by Dawnie Walton. It was one of my book of the month picks, by the way. But this is another adult novel. It's historical fiction / contemporary fiction because it is dual timeline and multi-perspective. It takes place partially in like the 1970s era and then also in 2016. So got both times going. So this story centers around the iconic interracial rock duo Opal and Neb and their possible reunion coming up in 2016. The novel is told in interview style, so that's why it's like multi-POV. So the character Sunny is a music journalist, and she wants to do an oral history on Opal and Neb, and more importantly, the controversial, super political event that happened that led to the band breaking up. Also, get the scoop on if they're going to be getting back together or not, now that it's 2016. And as Sunny is conducting these interviews and digs deeper into the darker history of what happened, she discovers something that could possibly change a lot of things, especially for Opal and Neb, and how the group will be remembered. Sunny is especially interested in learning more about Opal Jewel, who is this iconic Afro-punk queen rock star woman who stopped making music shortly after the band broke up. She wants to know her story, why that is. So we get to go back to Opal's like childhood, growing up in Detroit, how she was discovered by Neb and his agent and things. And we really get a full picture of her character, which I loved. She's definitely a flawed character, but just seeing her growth throughout the novel, how she develops over time, was really cool. This story also felt very real. I was like looking up things to like make sure that it wasn't. I don't know if like certain characters are supposed to be like different iconic like rock star people. If you read the book, I think you can make connections to like who the author drew inspiration from, which is cool. And then also the author did a really good job at interweaving like real pop culture references with like the fiction references. It just made the story very like authentic and real. So yeah, that was really cool. But basically, one of my favorite aspects of the book really was the multi-timeline, just because of like the racial controversies of the past and then seeing how they've changed or not so much have changed in present day, I thought was depicted really well. The way that the plot unfolds, it was just really thought-provoking, a powerful story, and I had a lot of pride while reading this book. I will say though, massive trigger warning for violence and brutality. There's like one scene in particular that's pretty graphic, but there's a lot of lead up to it, so you know what's happening. So if you're a person who's triggered by that, you can like skim over it and not read it in detail, just so that you're aware. And if there's like other trigger warnings, I'll be sure to put them in the description box. That was just one that like really stood out for me. Also, I read this book via audio, and I highly recommend going that route if you're interested, because it's a full cast. It definitely gave me like Daisy Jones and the Six vibes, if you've read that book. The cast was phenomenal, so it really brought the characters to life. That was very cool. And for my musical theater nerds, Andre Shields plays one of the characters in the book, so that's fun too. Alright everybody, that is all I have for today's video, quick video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know down below if any of these books sound interesting to you, or if you've read any of them, or if you have any similar books that you want to recommend me, feel free to put them in the comments. I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye!